get a message when you level up showing your new stats. This is how it will work. We'll make an object called obj dialog, and every time we want a dialog box to pop up, we'll create an instance of this object. It'll contain an array of messages, and in the array, each message will be a struct. The struct for each message will contain the name of the speaker and the message itself. So this way with structs in the array, you have a list of messages, and the obj dialog instance will go through this array, drawing each message one by one. So let's open our project and get started. Let's make our dialog object first. I'll make a new object and name this obj dialog.
Freedom, Episode 1. Jocko Willink here with Echo Charles. Why? Why am I feeling compelled to talk about this? Well, as I go through life, I have often said, and I've been saying for a long time, that discipline is what you need in your life. And what I oftentimes think people miss is the same thing they miss about leadership, which is that leadership is a skill. And a lot of people think leadership is natural, right? You look at a person.
I'll add the create event and make some variables. First, we have
and you see them in their leadership position, and they're confident, and they got charisma, and they're making decisions. And it's very easy to think that all of that.
Have the messages array. It's empty by default, and this will be assigned later depending on the dialog. We have a variable that stores which message you're on from the array. And by default, it's -1, meaning that the dialog hasn't started yet, because remember, an array starts from 0. We have current char. This is how many characters from the string have been drawn. That's because we want a typewriter effect in our game, and this variable controls how many characters are visible from the current message at any given moment. Draw message is the actual string that's being drawn on the screen, because we don't want to draw the full string immediately, but a part of it depending on how many characters should be visible. So this variable stores that cutout string with only the characters that need to be visible in the current moment. Then we have char speed, that's how fast characters appear, and then input key, that's the key used to speed up the text and move to the next message once the current message is over. Finally, we have the width of the GUI layer and also the height of the GUI layer, so that we can place the dialog box according to the GUI area, no matter what the actual resolution is.
Is just natural gift. Now listen, some of it was natural gift, right? You're going to have some level of natural gift. You're really charismatic, you're very articulate, and that's a skill that you were born with, some of it. But then over time, you become more articulate. Can you become more charismatic? Do you think you can become more charismatic?
Yes.
Yes, you can, absolutely. I've watched people become more charismatic as time goes by. Generally speaking, oftentimes has to do with their confidence level. What breeds confidence? Well, it's when they practice, when they rehearse, when they acquire skills, when they become more capable. The more capable you are, the more confident you are. You ever seen a kid going into a wrestling match or a jiu-jitsu match and they're really good?
Mm-hmm.
They're confident. Why are they confident? They're confident because they've been training their ass off for a long period of time. Any sport, you watch anybody going into any sport, if they train really hard, Tom Brady playing football, right? You'd see him going on the field. He didn't look nervous. Why? Because that guy was just training all the time. Michael Jordan. Why does Michael Jordan want the ball in the clutch moment? Because he practiced. Larry Bird. Why? Why does he want the ball when there's 2 seconds left on the clock and they're taking the ball inbounds? Why does he want the ball? Because he's practiced and he's confident. And that seems like charisma. And it probably is charisma. So leadership is not something, you're just born with. And like I said, there are aspects of it that you have some level of a gift, but then you get better at it. And the more you stand up and talk to people, the more you put out word, the more you get put into situations where you have to make decisions, the better you get at those things. As long as you're humble enough to correct yourself and admit, that wasn't a good decision, as long as you can do that. But so we understand, and I've been saying this at Echelon Front for a while, leadership is a skill. I wrote it in Leadership Strategy and Tactics. Leadership is a skill. You can learn it. Well, it's the same thing with discipline. It's the same thing with discipline. You can learn the skill of discipline. And can you be born with some of it? Yep, you can. You get some people that are born, and look, is it nature or nurture? I'm not 100% sure, but there's some combination of that you can grow up and be a more disciplined person than someone else, right? If you look at the big five on the psychology chart and you're a very conscientious person, that person, generally speaking, is going to be more disciplined human. But regardless of where you are on that chart, you can become more disciplined. There's no doubt about it. And for me, Echo Charles, on one of our earliest podcasts, you said something along the lines of, there's nothing that will affect and help your life more in more different aspects of your life than exercise, right? So when we're waking up or when we're working out, I was going to say when we wake up and work out, but sure. I know not everyone's in that category. Sure. But when we work out, everything gets better. Everything gets better. Every aspect of your life gets better. Your relationships get better. Your business gets better. Your mental health gets better. Your attitude everything gets better. Just from exercise. Just from exercise. Well, I actually would say that we could take that one step to the left, one precursor, the precursor to exercise, that would be an even more impactful thing in every aspect of your life, would be discipline. I think it's the most important characteristic, the most important aspect of your life as a human being.
Now we're going to add the step event where the actual logic of the dialog box will take place. Let's add a condition to check if the current message index is below 0, meaning the dialog hasn't started yet. So we'll exit the event so nothing happens. Then let's get the string from the array. So we'll get the current message out of the array. And because each message is a struct, remember, here we want to get the actual message. So we'll use the variable name for it, which is going to be MSG. Now we want to check if we haven't fully displayed the string yet. So we'll check if the current char variable is smaller than the length of the message string. In that case, we'll increase current char by the char speed multiplied by 1 plus the input from the input key. This means that normally char speed will just be multiplied by 1, but if you are holding the input key, the speed will be multiplied with 1 plus 1 equals 2, so the message goes twice as fast. If you do see this yellow line, meaning there's a warning, it's saying you can't add a number and a boolean together, even though in GML you can do that because true and false are just 1 and 0. But if you do want to remove this warning, you can wrap the keyboard check function within a real function, so the boolean is converted into a real or a number and the warning disappears. Now we want to cut out the string to display only a part of the message. That will be stored in draw message, and it will copy the string that we took from the struct. It will cut from the first character, and it will cut current char amount of characters from the string. So what we are doing here is basically getting the message from the array, checking if it's not been fully drawn yet, then increasing the number of characters drawn, and then cutting out that many characters from the string, which we'll draw later in the draw event. Now I'll add an else block here, which will run if the string has finished drawing completely. So in that case, we'll use another condition to check if the input key has been pressed, so we can move on to the next message. I'll increase the current message by 1, so we go to the next message in the array. But let's check if we are at the end of the array by checking if current message is greater than or equal to the length of the messages array. In that case, I'll destroy the instance, so the dialog is over. Otherwise, if there is another message in the array, then I'll reset current char to 0, so the next message can start from the beginning. We're done with the logic, so now we'll move on to drawing the dialog box.
Is to be disciplined. And again, this is why I wrote the book, Discipline Equals Freedom, Field Manual. Now, what made me start thinking about this? When did I learn about it? What made me pay attention to this? Well, if I'm gonna go old school, old Black Flag album, Henry Rollins. It's a live album. And in the song My War, which is like basically I'm against, it's my war. It's against I'm against everybody. But at one point, it's a live album. And I'm a little kid listening to this. I'm probably 13-year-old kid. Mm-hmm. And I hear Rollins. And at one point during the song, he's saying the discipline. I am the discipline. I don't even know what this word means at the time. I'm 13 years old, right? Yeah. So, you kind of start to figure it out. I don't know if I looked it up in a dictionary. I don't know if I had that kind of I had that kind of wherewithal to go to the library and pull out a dictionary. But you had some indication. So at a young age, what does it mean? Why is this guy talking about the discipline? I am the discipline. What does that mean? But as a young kid, again, when I was looking at Henry Rollins when I was 13 years old, he's a 23-year-old guy. He seems like a tough guy, right? Seems strong. Okay. Those were things that I looked at and said, those things are good. Good to be strong. Seems like a good thing to be strong. When all the punk rockers back in the day were, doing drugs or whatever, and he was working out, you'd see him doing push-ups. So he's trying to be strong. All these other people are doing that seems like the good thing. That must be the discipline. That's it. So that's what I need, right? So that is no doubt probably the first little kernel in my brain of discipline. And so then I started saying, okay, what does that mean? So I need to work out. I need to do push-ups. I need to do pull-ups. That's what I need to do. And I had this goal, of course, of going into the military, going into the SEAL teams, becoming some kind of a commando. So discipline seemed like the thing I needed, the thing I needed. So I did. Worked out, got ready, left, go to the SEAL teams, go through SEAL training. And the thing about SEAL training, does it teach you discipline? Kind of. The thing about SEAL training and the thing about all military training, all basic military training, which basic SEAL training is basic underwater demolition SEAL training. That's BUDS, basic underwater demolition SEAL. It's basic. So what you're getting is imposed discipline. It is imposed discipline. It's like, you are going to go do push-ups. You are now going to carry this log. You are now going to do this. You're now going to do something. You're now going to sit in the water until we tell you to get out of the water. That's what it's about. So it's imposed discipline. It's imposed discipline. They're not sitting you down and explaining to you the value of discipline. You're not hearing that. I didn't hear it. I don't think I heard the word discipline one time when I was going through basic SEAL training. I don't think I heard that word one time. I probably had a little kernel of it in my head. What you do learn, what you start to see, and what you have to have is you have to have some level of self-discipline. You have to have some level of self-discipline, because if you're going through SEAL training and you didn't have the discipline to run, to get prepared, you're not going to make it. If you didn't have the discipline to do pull-ups, you're not going to be able to climb those ropes, and you're not going to make it. So there's a bunch of reasons why it ends up surfacing, and it ends up becoming, if you're aware of it, it ends up becoming something that you see as very valuable. Because you see people that are undisciplined, they only do what they're forced to do. That's not going to be, that's not the best route. If you're only doing what you're forced to do, that's not what we're looking for. That's not what the SEAL teams is looking for. Look, they do it, and if you don't do what you're forced to, you don't make it. Obviously, it's called quitting.